Hi, you guys. So we are beginning to discuss the Constitution and how important the Constitution is in the United States and how important it became throughout the world. So quick review. The colonies are established in the 1600s. This is stuff that we discussed in the last chapter, but I wanted to quickly review. The colonies are established in the 1600s. Beginning in the 1700s, there's a period of salutary neglect where the British allow the colonists to do their own thing. That ends in 1763 with the end of the 7 Years' War. In 1775, the Second Continental Congress is formed, and they become the acting government during the war. They declare independence from Great Britain. The Revolutionary War begins in 1776, and it lasts until 1781. Now, the Treaty of Paris officially ended the war, and it was officially adopted in 1783. We have the Articles of Confederation Government from 1781 to 1788. So, I'm not going to sing to you, but I always think of, when I see the preamble, I always think of the Schoolhouse Rock video where they sing the preamble. I love that video. I love Schoolhouse Rock. So you will watch it at some point before you leave. They essentially lay out the goals for the Constitution in the preamble. The preamble is the thesis. It establishes this is what we want to accomplish in this document. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, seek to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And they ordained and established that this was the Constitution of the United States of America. These are the 6 goals of the Constitution. 1, to form a more perfect union. 2, to establish justice. 3, to ensure domestic tranquility. 4, to provide for the common defense. 5, to promote the general welfare. 6, to secure the blessings of liberty. The framers really wanted to create a governing document that divided and distributed and balanced governmental power, but still give people, the will of the people, their own power. With the Bill of Rights that was added in 1791, we have specific restraints that have been placed on the government that so they basically cannot violate the basic rights of citizens. The Constitution has 3 parts: the preamble, the articles, and the amendments. The preamble is the thesis. It's the introduction. It's where they lay out the broad goals of the established government. These 7 articles are next. They create the structure of the U.S. government with very little detail or elaboration, which we're going to be talking about later. There are 27 amendments that have been added to the Constitution, which is really quite impressive. I made the comparison in class that this document has been around since 1787, 1788, and it only has 27 amendments. The Alabama State Constitution was written in 1901, and it has over 1,000 amendments. So clearly, this document has been longer lasting than like the Alabama Constitution has. The Constitution establishes 6 principles of government. The first one is limited government. This is the principle that the powers and functions of the government are restricted by the U.S. Constitution and other laws. This principle is known as the rule of law, which is the concept that every member of society must obey the law and is never above it. In other words, it doesn't matter who you are, what you have, the status in the community, the position that you're in the government, nobody is above the law. The second one is popular sovereignty. This is the concept that the government gets its power from the people and that ultimate political power remains with the people. In the US, we have a government that is a republic, which means that we have a national government that is a representative democracy. People represent and they exercise their sovereignty by electing other people to go represent them in Washington. The framers did not want to give unlimited power to a potential king or to a government, but they also didn't want to give too much power to the people either. One example would be that it's a process to amend the Constitution. It's not something that's done super easily. The third is separation of powers. This is the principle that the powers of government are not concentrated into one specific group or one specific person or, agency. We have separated the powers among three branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. So here is a chart. The legislative makes the laws, the executive carries out the laws, and the judicial interprets the law. Article 1 of the Constitution establishes Congress, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, which I will abbreviate as HOR. This is the law-making body. They make the laws in the United States. Article 2 establishes the executive branch, which consists of the president, the vice president, and the executive departments. An example of an executive department would be the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or the U.S. Department of Education, or the Department of Defense, or the Department of Justice, or the Department of Homeland Security. The executive branch implements or carries out the laws that are passed by the legislature. Article 3 establishes the judicial branch, which interprets and applies the law. The highest court in the U.S. is the Supreme Court, which we'll talk about in a bit. Number 4, checks and balances. This refers to a system that gives each branch of the government the power to change or to cancel acts that another branch has done. This system prevents one branch from exerting too much power. Veto is a vocabulary word that will definitely be on the test. It means to reject. These are some examples of checks and balances. Congress can set up the budget. Congress does set up the budget for the fiscal year, which begins in October, and this limits the power of the president. In other words, the president can say, I want to spend X amount of money, and they're like, no, we want you to spend this amount of money. So that's how they limit the power of the president. The Senate can reject presidential nominations on government jobs. The Senate must approve international treaties by two-thirds of the vote. Congress can declare war. Congress can override a presidential veto with 2/3 votes in both houses. Congress can impeach and remove federal judges. Congress can impeach and remove the president. Congress can establish lower federal courts. The president can veto legislation. The president can call special sessions of Congress. The president can suggest laws and send messages to Congress. The president can appoint federal judges, and typically, if a president, I was going to say fortunate, but that's really not the best way to put that, because generally those on the Supreme Court serve for life. So, like recently, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed away. She held her position for many years. The president will now have the opportunity to fill her position. The Senate must approve the position. The president can appoint, but the Senate must approve it. The president can grant reprieves and pardons for federal crimes as well. The Supreme Court, which I will from here on out be abbreviating as SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, it can declare acts of Congress unconstitutional. It can declare executive acts unconstitutional. Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, and therefore they are free from potential control from other people, like the president who put them on the Supreme Court. This is an example of checks and balances. I'm sure you've seen this before, with the arrows and that kind of thing. So here's another example. Next is judicial review. This is the power to determine whether the actions of the legislative and the executive branches of the government have been constitutional. This is practiced by court systems everywhere, but in the case of the Constitution, we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court. Unconstitutional is a vocabulary word that you need to know. Basically, it means that any law or government action has been found to violate a part of the Constitution. Now, because the Constitution is the nation's highest law, an unconstitutional law or act is therefore deemed illegal and cannot be enforced or carried out by the government. The very last principle of government is federalism. This is a system under which the powers of government are distributed between the national and the state governments. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution includes a necessary and proper clause, which states that Congress has the power to make all laws necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. So, in other words, they can make laws that are necessary and proper that they think are proper for carrying out their job, their powers. Article 6 contains the Supremacy Clause, which declares that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. I hope that this video has been helpful. Please go answer the review questions now that are listed in your Schoology.